Wow, they're coming in pretty fast. Well, you know what? Welcome, everybody. We're going to have people joining us from all over the world. And that's fantastic because we love sharing information about these life changing technologies. I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, and I've got Dr. Lee Osler with me. We're both on the medical board. And excuse me, we're missing Jim and Ann Glenn tonight. Their oldest son, I think it is getting married. So they'll be back the next time we're all together, which is, I think, going to be in like 2 or 3 weeks. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Danielle and Lynn Mathews. You may have heard their story before. Her story is number one on Real Redox Results. It's fantastic. And Danielle, take us back. How long ago was that story? It's been what, about 7 years, maybe?
Oh my gosh, even longer, Maureen. It's
Wow.
wild. My car accident happened in 2012. So, yeah, we are
Yeah,
celebrating
13 years.
13 years. Hmm.
Okay, fantastic. And so, back then you had never heard, none of us had ever heard of redox signaling molecules at that point because the company's only 15 years old. So your mom, Lynn, you tell us, give us your background. You're a yoga instructor, right? And so you're a little bit more open to functional medicine and all. Kind of tell us a little bit about your background and how you got introduced to it. And then you shared it with Danielle because of her challenge after her car accident.
I did. Thank you. So I had a yoga studio in Annapolis, Maryland, and we did a lot of therapeutics. So I got to know many of the more holistic practitioners, osteopaths, naturopaths, acupuncturists. And so we shared a lot of the same people, sending them back and forth. So when Danielle had her accident, I tapped into that group because we were trying to figure out what could help her. My dad was a pulmonologist, so we kind of had his Western medical colleagues as off on that side. But we tapped into, I mean, I can't tell you, for 2 years, we did dozens and dozens of different modalities. God bless Danielle, because that first year, every single day, 5 days a week, we were going to some type of therapy, trying to find something that worked. And some things would work a little bit, but nothing was really helping her get her health back. And this was, she was 23 at the time. She was sleeping 20 hours a day. She had constant throbbing in her head. She had a challenge finding words. When we took her to a cognitive, did some cognitive testing, and Danielle was top in her class at a top university, just this really high performing kid. And she was performing below satisfactory and way below average in pretty much all those cognitive categories. And I just remember one of them in particular was a sheet of a bunch of shapes in lines. And she got to that first line and she just looked at the person. She said, I can't do this. It was just so much input that her brain just could not handle, even looking at all those different things, too much input coming in, and her brain just shut down.
Well, take us back, if you don't mind, take us back to the accident. You were hit by a drunk driver, if I
And
recall.
yeah.
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 It was some crazy thing. 7 o'clock in the morning. So it was Saturday morning. I was going actually to meet my parents. I was leaving Baltimore City to meet them to go to a wedding of my godparents, their son actually. And the guy passed out and came into my lane and hit my car completely head on, which turned out to be like a blessing because if he had hit more to the side, the driver's side, I think it would have had more bodily injury. But what happened was essentially, my brain hit my skull. And the morning of, I walked out of the accident. I looked okay. I looked like I look right now. Totally
You
fine.
didn't lose consciousness or crack open your skull or
Nope.
anything.
Everything I can remember, I think I remember everything. And there were runners that were on the street that day, so they came up to my car pretty quickly. And I couldn't really like get out of like they had to help me. I remember them opening the door and me just like lifting my arms up to them because I was like totally out of it. And the paramedics came. This is the wild part. Like the paramedics came and they looked me over. They never did any sort of vitals, nothing. And they just said, well, do you think you need to come in? And I said, well, I look okay. Like I've got burns on my arms. My knee was bruised because I'd hit the steering column. And, meanwhile, the car is sitting next to me, completely totaled. And they say, well, and I said, I feel out of it. And they said, well, you're just in shock. And I was like, oh, well, I've never been in an accident before. I don't know what shock is. And I said, okay, I guess I'm just in shock. And they left. And my parents came. And when mom and dad got to the scene, from my recollection, they were like, Danielle, you're not normal. It doesn't quite seem right. And they took me to an urgent care, which they also missed it, Maureen. This is what's crazy.
No concussion protocol done.
No, really, yeah.
And they were next to a concussion clinic. I mean, the whole thing is kind of crazy.
So no spines, no head
Nothing.
CT, no nothing.
No, if I had had a bleed, I'd have been in a lot of trouble. But thankfully I didn't have a brain bleed. And it took, I didn't get, I mean, long story short, I didn't get into a neurologist for a month because also they're really difficult to get in with. So we saw my primary care who was like, yeah, you've clearly had brain trauma. You need to go in and you get a CT scan and all this stuff. And it was classified as a mild TBI, which I point out because on the scale, like there's a scale, and I didn't have a bleed, I wasn't in a coma, so it could have been much worse. And interestingly, doctors kind of said, well, there's not much we can do for you with your injury. Like we kind of try to get people with that type of injury to your state. And I'm like, well, I can't function. I couldn't focus for more than 10 minutes. I couldn't handle light. I couldn't handle noise. Everything was completely overwhelming. My personality, I was a jerk. I was not nice because everything was just.
All the filters are off.
Yeah. And I also didn't realize that I wasn't normal. Like I was saying to my parents, I'm going back to work. Like I have to go back to work, and I did. I mean, I was in my 20s. I could do what I wanted.
And she did. She flew back to Colorado to go teach.
Yeah, I attempted to. And it became very clear once I got in front of children. I was teaching at the time, 6th grade math. And I couldn't remember the kids' names. I couldn't remember what I just said. And I was like, well, this is not.
Oh my God. Plus you were a snowboarder, right?
Yeah, I was a big snowboarder, avid snowboarder. So I had, with head injury, there's kind of a cumulative effect. And I think I had definitely whacked my noggin a few times snowboarding, and that didn't help the matter. So this was sort of, I think, like the injury that it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And it was not good. I went on a medical leave. We attempted to do different things, hyperbaric oxygen treatment. We did neurobiofeedback, all the supplements you could imagine, handfuls of them. Like I was like, let's go, let's fix this thing. And just nothing. I mean, nothing was really moving the needle. And at my 1-year appointment, the neurologist kept saying, give it a month. Then it was 3 months. Then it was 6 months. And then at the 1 year, it was, well, this is just your new normal. You need to adjust your life around your symptoms. And I was like, well, you're fired. You are kidding me.
And what was the book? You had a book in your purse that day, I remember.
Oh yeah, it's a book called
or something like that.
Brain That Changes Itself by Dr. Norman Gold.
All about neuroplasticity, and she showed it to him.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, that's just a theory. It's not proven." And I was like, "You don't know anything. Goodbye." It's crazy. I mean, it's kind of wild to think about how narrow some of these medical professionals are, and like the blinders are really on, and it shocked me because I had grown up with my grandfather who was a doctor. There was it felt like safe, like, oh, he always has the answer. He knows who we should talk to, that kind of thing. And here I was, I'm like, I've tried everything. And we worked through Mom's network also of alternative, and nothing was helping. So it was it was a dark time in my life.
Well, and that's an interesting comment too. I think with the super specialization of medicine, the old time doctors that used to come to your house and take care of you and your dad and your kids and your dogs and everybody, they had probably, more a better fund of knowledge, and they were more holistic back then.
Yeah.
Now everybody is just super focused, and I know I was super specialized too, in pain. And so, people call me up with other stuff and I'm like, oh, not my wheelhouse, but you learn about it in medical school, and then, unless you use it, you kind of lose it. But that's
before we go, can I just ask back on the timeline of that? You had your accident, and then you had all these non-helpful things, that were attempted. What was say again, the timeline? Was this a matter of weeks? Was it months? Was it years?
This was like, it was a year up until my doctors told me it's my new normal. And then at that point, I kind of caved because I was like, well, I can't deal with the pounding. So I got on a prescription medication, which the freaking side effects for that medication are migraines. I'm like, well, I don't need those. I have those. And so I couldn't take it too often, but it was sort of like this, because it was terrible. I mean, I couldn't.
It was incapacitating.
Yeah, like I couldn't be on a computer screen, a TV, phone, natural light was too much. Like going to the grocery store was like, that was the activity for the day because it would wipe me out. So it was, I just, after a year, it was like, okay, something's got to give. So I tried that. And, when I took it, it did what it was supposed to do, but it wasn't getting at the root of the issue, right? So they'd come back and I couldn't take it every day because obviously the side effects. And yeah, that was kind of
Had
where,
the whole emotional roller coaster, the
yeah.
depression, anxiety.
Oh yeah, really severe
I
panic
can-
attacks.
yeah.
I'm just thinking from a physiological point of view, Maureen, you correct me if I'm mistaken here, but these TBIs, the injury to the brain, the effects are not typically long term. I mean, normally, like in football or whatever, if they have a concussion, there's a protocol you go through. They wear a mouthpiece, they do all these protective things, and within a few weeks, of course, I'm sure they're 13 years later since your experience, they're much more tuned into that now.
They are.
Talking about, you had physiology things going on a year plus later, and that's
It makes
amazing.
you wonder, yeah, if something happened at the time and it just went undiagnosed,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe that 13, what was that? That was 2012, 13 years ago, they weren't doing the protocol.
I
Well,
remember, do you remember we went to, were you thinking of the same thing? We
ahead.
went to well, we started it with cognitive therapy, which really helped, especially the psychological stuff, because then she was, even though we could be there and care, she kept saying, you don't know what I'm going through, which we didn't, right? And so she was in groups of people who, some of them had had TBIs 8 years or more and still were struggling. But I remember the cognitive therapist invited us to some talk, and the fire department and the paramedics were talking. And later, when Danielle spoke with them, they were shocked that no one had. They said if the car had looked like that, it is mandatory for them to do a concussion protocol and to have you go to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
They asked her.
There was a lot of negligence in it. I was in Baltimore City. I mean, the guy that was drunk, he got off on charges because like the arresting officer didn't even show up. So I think there's just like a lot of dysfunctional things maybe happening there. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'm sorry for that. Yeah. And, Lee, you bring up a good point, but it's almost more like you were saying, because you were such an athlete and all, probably hit your head a few times, almost like a football player, with like the continuous, and the cumulative effects of hitting your head. And when you stop very quickly like that, the brain bounces inside the skull, so it's called counter coup, so, who knows what kind of damage you might have done.
yeah. They didn't have the imaging. That's what like shocked me. They couldn't see it. Like because in my CT scan, my brain looked fine, but that's like macro. And
They did the CAT scan later, correct? Not at the
yeah,
time.
they did it a month. Well, they did a month after,
Yeah.
when I finally got into the hands of the right people, and we knew what was going on, and it wasn't
Yeah.
shock. But my
Good
cognitive.
time. Here, let me just say, yeah, what we're gonna be talking about a product, a technology that works at the cellular level. It is not a medical treatment, cure, prevention for anything. What it does is it empowers your body to heal itself. So I want to say that because we're kind of talking a little bit of, medical terminology here, but this is all what happened to Danielle before she was introduced to this by her mother, who didn't get a whole lot of respect on sharing the salt water from Salt Lake City.
No,
So,
she sure did not. We should talk about that.
yeah. Back to you, Lynn. Talk about how you got introduced to it and what was going on in your mind.
Sure. So, as I said, we tried a lot after that first year when the neurologist told her that. I'm thinking there's no way, I kept looking, we kept trying things. And it was actually almost another year. In fact, it was almost 2 years, a little over 2 years after the initial accident. One of my yoga students, actually, who's an acupuncturist in the Annapolis area, who Danielle had seen, she knew about Danielle's accident. And she said, I have brought this technology into my practice. Everyone seems to be benefiting, crosses the blood-brain barrier. I really think it can help Danielle. And I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. I'm all in, let's try it, right? So I bring the bottle home and I said to Danielle, look at this, Diana talked about this and I think we should try this. And I will let you, Danielle, explain her reaction.
Oh, I'm like, Mom, your friend's involved in a scam. Did you not read the ingredient panel that says sodium chloride in water? I said, that's salt water. And this redox she's talking about, I had a degree in biology. That's what I studied. And I thought it warranted me to, know everything there was to know about the human body. And like redox isn't a thing. Like that's like redox molecules are not like a thing that you're going to be able to like put in a bottle and drink. And like, this is just crazy talk. And I refused to drink it. So mom was left with the bottles and she trusted her friend. And so she started using it.
I figured we had it. I might as well use it. I had a challenge with my hands being very, I had a lot of difficulty moving them, my fingers. Had been to many rheumatologists. They wanted me to do pain medication and that just wasn't of interest. Well, within 6 weeks, I was moving my fingers with great ease. And my husband had played football in college, had a career-ending injury with having a couple of knee surgeries. So he was very healthy. He was very active, but he always wore a knee brace when he would run or, do yard work and stuff. And within 2 weeks, he wasn't wearing his knee brace anymore. And he was getting all these great athletic benefits. And that was kind of when we sat Danielle down and we were like, look, let's try it, give it 6 months. If it doesn't work, we just chalk it up to all those other things that didn't work. It can't hurt you. She rolled her eyes and she said, if you want to waste your money,
That's what
go
I said.
ahead. And I'll do it. And then she said, but I want to be scientific about it, right? I'm not going to change anything. We'll just start.
Yeah, I was like a really good tracker. So for those of you that are starting your redox journey, like I don't know, you probably don't have this habit, but I was tracking everything every single day. I had a whole list of things that I would track because I was trying to figure out what makes this worse and what is helping me feel better, and it was really hard to suss out because sometimes things had a delayed, reaction. So anyway, so I'm like, we'll add no other variables in. We'll do this redox thing. They told me to drink 8 ounces a day. I said, okay, we'll do that. And nothing was changing. Nothing was changing. Nothing was changing. I'm like, you guys are wasting your money.
I told you it was a placebo, she kept saying.
Like, you placeboed your way into your results. Like, I'm happy that you feel better, but like, it's salt water.
Now,
And
were you putting it in your mouth? Were you,
yeah, I was doing it like they told me to. I was swishing. I'm like rolling my eyes, swishing, So the placebo should have worked in the opposite direction for me. It should have not worked. But yeah, so it was undeniable that it was around like the end of month 3. Okay, so we're talking like this is 90 days of nothing.
Wow.
And the gels weren't out then. So this was like the summer before the gel came out.
Yeah.
And my head, the pounding stopped. It just wasn't there.
One day she woke up and she's like, Mom, that pounding is gone. I've had it for 2 years. It's gone.
Yeah. And I was having energy, I was walking the dog and then inviting a friend to come over and hang out and then actually sitting downstairs for dinner. And my parents are like, don't you want to go take a nap? I'm like, no, I feel good. And it's just these were the indicators. Like, it's subtle, it's not like a switch flipped and all of a sudden like everything was better. That is, I think, unrealistic to even think that things do that. The way this works, it was like, I felt that it was like tiny incremental things were shifting that for 2 years there'd been no budge on them and caught my attention. That's for sure.
Sure. And there's a hierarchy of healing. So,
Sure.
I love it. We've been on these products for 13 years and we're still getting benefits, still noticing new stuff that it's just getting around to, I guess. So yeah, that's absolutely amazing. So at that point, did you think that it was placebo or were you pretty convinced?
So here's the kicker. I don't talk about this very much. During that summer, I had been exposed to a plant and my skin just got very red and irritated from head to toe. And 5 weeks, like I had to use prednisone. It was awful. My skin doesn't get happy with that plant. And so it was September. I had started this in June. It was September and I didn't realize my dog had been exposing me to this. And anyway, I took him to the same spot. I got exposed to it again. And my sister's wedding was the next week. And I looked at Mom and I was like, I am the maid of honor. I'm going to be
And it's going to be outside.
Yeah. like, I'm gonna be covered head to toe in you know what. And mom goes, Asia just came out with this Renew 28 stuff. Why don't we try it? And I was like, okay. So I put it on every half hour. I'm like, let's go. And it just, I mean, I had tried everything at CVS, you know, like all the stuff that they have to handle this. Nothing had touched it previously. So I'm like, okay, this time we got to try something different. I am telling you, the thing, it was like that on my leg. It never left that area. And I was totally fine for my sister's wedding. And I was like, Mom, there is something to this Redox stuff. Like, wow. So, the visual was just undeniable. I mean, obviously my experience was undeniable, but the visual was like so compelling to me. And then skepticism, you know, out the window. So then I'm telling my support group about it, my cognitive therapist. I'm like, you guys, this is exciting. Like, this is what's happening. So, yeah, I was more open to the fact that Redox was actually not a placebo.
Did that change the way the questions you started to ask with your biology degree background?
Oh, for sure. I went on to PubMed. So two of my really good friends at the time were getting their PhDs in marine biology, but they were biologists. And we got onto PubMed and we were like, so what is this actually doing? Like, what's the mechanism here? How is this actually supporting? And we just went nuts. You know, little scientist selves, like everyone probably shouldn't do that because it's probably not exciting for everyone. But if you want to scratch that itch, and I was like, wow, you know, and I'm looking up all different issues. Well, how does redox play a role in this and in this and in this? And blew my mind. I mean, blew all of our minds. They both started using the product because they were like, well, this just makes sense, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so, that's so interesting because I know I got started probably about a year before. Well, your accident was in 12, you got started in 14. My husband and I got started on the product at the end of 12, and very similar story to yours. Terry Latham, who a lot of people know, is the one who told me about it. I was like, oh my God, this sounds so stupid. And I live on an island surrounded by salt water. This is wrong. This is just wrong. And, if you've heard the story, I was telling my sister, who is not a scientist, not a biologist, but she is a medical editor at my medical school. And she said, I said, I've never heard of redox. And she's like, well, I have. It's like, you have not. And she's like, no, I have. We just got a $10.5 million NIH grant to study redox signaling in the body for a whole slew of different systems.
Wow.
And I was like, what? No, as an anesthesiologist, redox articles are not coming across my desk.
Right.
You're not using them to put people to sleep. But, it was like here Terry Latham, who was kind of a jock and was in computer sales, knew about redox. And my sister, the medical editor, knew about it. And so I did what you did. I went to PubMed and, did a deep dive. And I was like, wow. And it's really a contraction. That word is just reduction oxidation. It's just a chemical reaction. But when you're talking about the molecules, and Lee, you can expand upon this because he's written all the books. He's the author of, I think, 5 books now? How many books now, Lee? At least 4.
At least 4, and there's a 5th one in the oven.
Yeah. So he is our resident expert on redox signaling molecules. So these molecules are the secret language of the cells. It is these chemical reactions, this transfer of electrons, transfer of energy that causes all the different processes. Yeah.
You got it, Maureen.
Close enough. All the mechanisms and functions of our cells rely on these. We know that if we cut ourselves, that we're going to heal, but we don't really know how that happens. What happens when you cut the skin, what alarms are going off, what's calling in those platelets and those, fibroblasts and everything else that put down the tissue and all. Well, that's where these little molecules come in. They're amazing. And you have a funny story about amazing molecules too. I can't believe that Alan Noble put you number 1 after you.
I know. Mom was like, go to amazingmolecules.com, Danielle. All the information's there. And I was like, Mom, are you kidding me? Like that name, you got him. It's a joke. Like, this is a complete joke. Yeah. Yep. Sorry,
I know, the bottle should have come with a magic wand because really back then we knew nothing about how these work. Now, if Yeah, Lee, if you don't mind giving a little bit of background on some of this, kind of, for the people who are new, who are not, have no idea what we're talking about. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I really like this story because Danielle's injury is a great example of when you have brain injury like that. What a concussion, is runaway oxidation. Basically, the injury in the neurons, it goes through waves. It's just like it might be fine for a bit, but then it comes back, and so this goes on for weeks. And so, currently, as I understand it, and I'm obviously not the expert on that part, but the treatment can include, pretty heavy doses of antioxidants just to deal with the oxidative stress that comes from the injury itself. And so, and when you think about, and then to kind of get into where Maureen is directing this, it's like, why would this be helpful to something like that? And of course, the answer has to do with the cell's ability, or the cell's machinery that creates its own endogenous, internally sourced antioxidants. The principal one being glutathione. That's the master antioxidant, and there are others, obviously, that are involved with that as well. But that's the master one. And so the question from a biology point of view is like, you got two biology nerds here. Maureen's almost a biology nerd. We'll give her a little bit of credit.
My degree is in biology too, so there you go.
And so, you're looking at the cell and saying, how does the cell, consistent with what Maureen just said, how does the cell know it's in trouble? How does it identify or sense that there's a crisis happening in or around the cell, and what does it do about it? And that's what I call the doctor within. We're awakening the doctor within so that it knows what to do in response to that, which is to tell the DNA the marching orders, or the script, the transcript of how to make this glutathione protein so that it can go out into the body and provide this antioxidant coverage for the issues of aging or trauma or day-to-day oxidative stress, just in simple metabolism. Respiring in a world of oxygen, we breathe that and it creates oxidative stress. So it's a very nicely designed, intricate system that each cell has for its ability to sense or detect when there's a problem, and then how it signals or tells the cell, the DNA, what it needs to do in response to that by degrees, so that it can respond to it, so then it can sense the solution, so then it can stop the solution and downregulate when it doesn't need to be there. This is the response. We call it stress response, and it's inherent in our bodies. And so with the SIA as a redox supplement, we simply have stabilized redox signaling molecules, identical to the same ones that the cell is making and using in this system, that we can take exogenously. We can import them into our body, and we can create the signaling that upregulates or activates the cell's response, so that we are now more resilient. We're dealing with the oxidative stress. And so that's why I asked the earlier question, like a full year later, you're still struggling, and then in 90 days time, we're resetting the cell's machinery, and we're repairing, and we're taking the garbage out better, all the damaged folded proteins from that oxidative process. They're all starting to get cleaned out and reset and regenerated into the normal cell function. And then the symptoms improve. And so I emphasize to people, this is not a treatment. That's not what we're doing. We didn't use this as a drug to treat. But when we correct the upstream dysfunction and we cover the oxidation damage that is existing there, in your case, it was acute. The rest of us is sort of more just chronically, it adds up. When that happens, then the cell now has resilience. It's like the fire department that's constantly on the ready. It can respond as it needs to. And if not that I want you to test the theory, but if you were to go have another accident right now, because you're already there. It's like you're kind of paved the way because your cells are working and you're able to withstand that. So that's kind of my quick flyover of that, and really how I think it was, at least the main part of it applied in your situation, even though it was 300 and some odd days later.
Oh, it was 2 full years later.
2 years after that,
Ooh,
Redox
okay.
actually.
Two,
entered.
2 years.
That makes the
Yeah,
point better.
Amazing that you got the results you got, but you were addressing so many different things happening with your
Well, and
brain.
even your cognitive therapist, tell what she said.
Well, she said, Danielle, I've been working with your type of injury for over 30 years, and I've never seen someone have such a rapid recovery so far out from the original trauma. She said, that doesn't happen. She said, what the hell is that stuff you started drinking? And I was like, Debbie, salt water? Like, I don't know what it is. We better figure it out.
Well, here, let me add one more point to this. It's like when you damage neurons, they have 20% of the energy expenditure in the body, in the brain, right? Each cell has, an immensely high number, 2 million numbers of mitochondria. They're really creating energy, which means they're creating a lot of oxidative stress through Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain anyway. And the problem going into this conversation is that brain cells do not have a robust antioxidant capability like other cells in our body would. And I don't know if it's because they don't have a robust capability, or it's just that there's so many mitochondria that is deluging the cell with a high amount of oxidative stress. And then when you put stress or trauma on top of that, and now I'm creating oxidation from a different reason than just everyday metabolism in those cells. I'm upping the ante, and I'm creating this huge oxidative state or burst inside each cell. And that affects cognition, that affects neuroplasticity, it affects healing, it affects taking the garbage out through autophagy. All of these things that would normally be going on, you're way behind, the 8 ball, as it were, because that's the starting position of these very cells.
Neurological stuff.
Messages,
Takes
drink
time.
this stuff.
Yeah.
So let's pivot, because you guys have made this a mission, as have I. When I saw what it did for my family, and as a physician, a Western trained physician, although I had dabbled, I got certified in acupuncture and did mind, body, and energy medicine and things like that. So was a little bit of a functional med doc while I was still practicing Western medicine. When I saw what these products and what replenishing the redox signaling molecules did for people as far as their health, including and especially my husband's health, turning around, did a full 180. And a girlfriend who had had something happen to her where she'd had surgery on her wrist the year before, and a year out was still having excruciating pain, hand turning color, swelling up, couldn't use her hand. And in pain, there's something that we look for when people complain about that is extremely hard to take care of. And usually, and we tell people don't cut it off, because it'll just keep creeping up. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible syndrome. And she got on this product, and long before you talked about it taking a couple of months to have, what was it, 3 months before you really noticed a difference? For me, it was 6 weeks, but my girlfriend had almost an immediate response to it. So everybody's physiology is a little different. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And you know what? What I love about that is that you need to get it on as many people as soon as you can to prove it, because you might take a while to have an effect. Depends on what's going on in your body. But somebody else, like Lynn, I think you and your husband both had pretty fast results from it, so pretty amazing. But once it happened, you guys, like me, decided to share this and educate other people about it. I almost felt like it was a responsibility, right? So talk a little bit about that.
Well, hang on. You're giving me way too much credit. I told my cognitive therapist about it, but then it was Mom that saw the vision. I was I was as negative about that as I was about the
Oh, yes.
product. So
You had, and we'll have
I'll give
links
all the
to
kudos.
that too, the chicken bone in the neck, like no thing. Well, you know, I know, and I understand that too, because I told Terry Latham, there is no way that I, after spending, you know, all those years in education and had been, you know, chief of anesthesia at a hospital, I was not talking to people about salt water. That was not going to happen until, you know, literally I didn't tell anybody for about 3 months, except for my girlfriend offhandedly, until I couldn't not tell people about it. You know, I
Yeah.
just felt like I know about this and I have a moral obligation.
Yeah. That's how
I,
mom saw it. Saw that.
I, because I was teaching and training yoga teachers at the time, they had watched the journey of Danielle, right? They had knew about my hands. And so they were curious about what we were doing. And some of them would say, well, do you think it will help this, that, or the other? And like, I really don't know a lot about it. As you said earlier, Maureen, there wasn't a lot of science out at that point in time, right? I was like, just try it and see. And so I kind of like stumbled backwards into the business, if you will, because I didn't have the intention of doing that. I was getting my master's at the time. I was teaching, but I did enough that I actually won the trip for Vertus's birthday to Cancun. I had not met the company, I had not met the, you know, founders, and I met them all there. And it just touched me in a way that I thought, you know what, there's something to this, and this is something that I really need to be doing. I still didn't do it in a big way, but at the time we were getting ready to move from Maryland to Sedona, and I kept saying Danielle was getting ready to go back into the workforce. I kept saying to her, look, you know, you might want to look at this, because she had said, you know, she wanted something where, you know, she had some time freedom, she could help people, and I'll let her explain too. And I kept saying, I really think you should look at this. It's checking all the boxes I'm hearing you say to me, right? But she was still, and Danielle, you go ahead, and because you're going to explain
Oh
your
yeah.
whole attitude.
Mom, God bless her. I mean, I was not nice. I'm like, Mom, I went to the University of Virginia. I graduated like with honors, and you want me to do network marketing? Like, you think that is a path that makes any sense for your daughter? And I mean, it was like I had such a negative attitude about it. And, you know, like mom, thankfully, I mean, the attitude was sort of like she was just so convinced. She's like, well, you just obviously don't see what I see. Like, you don't know what you don't know, was sort of the attitude. And she's like, just come to this thing. It was the Envision conference. It was in Las Vegas in 2015. And she said, just come. I've earned it, and I can bring a +1, and I'm bringing you. And I was like, okay, Mom, we'll come to this thing, and then I'm never coming to another one. Like, we'll
And
check
she's
that
like,
box.
never talk to me about the business again.
Yeah, I said I was very clear. And anyway, so I went, and at this time, like, understand, I'm still struggling with light sensitivity, noise sensitivity. So I was in the back of the room with noise canceling headphones in, and but I was getting chills for like 8 hours straight. I was listening to Tyler Norton. He was doing the ethos training, 1 hour on each bit of the ethos. And I looked at Mom and I was like, are you kidding me? This is like everything. They get it. And Mom's like, I told you this. I guess it's clicking, you know? And then I just got on a mission. Like I had seen Alan Noble talk on stage, and I saw him go to the bathroom, and I left the room, and I was like, well, let me see if this guy's real. You know, and Alan was on the phone, and I sat and waited for him for 10 minutes, and I asked him about things I'll never forget. And then I started to ask everybody. I'm like, is this really real? Can you like actually make a business with this? Like, I hear everybody at the top makes the money, and like, can people that have no background actually do something like this? And I have nobody to talk to because I've been brain injured for 2 years. Like, my network is non-existent. And everyone just said, yeah, absolutely you can. Absolutely you can. Absolutely you can. And I'll never forget Bo Buck, so tall. And I was like, great, I've learned so much. I'm going to go home and I'm going to study. And he was like, did you not listen to anything that was said? I was like, huh? And he goes, just go talk to people, Danielle. Just get out there and talk to people. And so I kind of made the decision. I said, look, if I'm going to give something an actual try, I said, I'll give it a year. Like, let me just, clearly I'm seeing evidence in front of my face that is undeniable that you can have business success here. And I wanted something like, what was really on my heart was I lost my ability to work, and I lost an income because of that. And I didn't have a plan B. So it was absolutely terrifying to go, well,
Well,
I'm
your
depressed.
age,
Yeah.
you know, who does?
Yeah,
If you don't
it's
mind
true.
my asking,
Yeah.
how old were you when you went to the Envision conference?
That's 2015. So 37 minus 30, whatever that is.
So that was 10 years, so 26.
I was in my
You were
20s.
26 or 27.
Yeah.
You were young.
We're
I
not
have
doing
to
math
ask,
tonight, Maureen. We established that before we got on.
it's been one of those nights.
It has been. We were laughing before
And
we
I,
got here because we were just all frazzled.
I know. And I'm wondering who got to go to Cancun with you, Lynn? Because I was
My
wondering,
sister.
your sister.
That is a false.
I shouldn't have asked.
Who still thinks this is a crazy, we're nuts.
Yep.
That's amazing. So at 27, and the reason I ask is you've met my son, Christopher, and Christopher, I think, would love to do this, but a lot of young people struggle kind of like you do. They don't know what to say. They think it's sales. It's not really sales, it's education. So kudos to you because you not only, once you got the vision, once you had those chills, man, you've taken it and run with it, and you went from being, TBI to one of the top speakers in the company. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, the words come through now more easily. That's for sure. Thank
Yeah.
you. Like,
I wanna
yeah,
ask-
this helped so much.
I want to ask Danielle, what do you do? What do you say? I mean, how do you make it so effortlessly easy?
Well, the conversation is different with everybody because I don't make it about me and my goals. And I know that I have a gift. And when I meet people, I just have the mindset that the divine is going to put the people in front of me that need what I have to say. And so whomever I meet, I take it as a divine appointment and I just listen. I chat, I talk, I hear what they have to say. And then if
What are you listening for?
I'm listening for them talking about, I mean, the way I would explain it is like I'm listening for a current state that's not a desired state, something that's currently not working. It could be a health, like everybody complains. It's really like you ask somebody, like you get into a 2-minute conversation with somebody and they're complaining about something. I mean, it is actually kind of crazy. And so I just listen for that. And I think, how can I connect this conversation to a SIA? And that I believe I have a solution to this thing that you're telling me is a problem. And so there's that. And then, it's been an evolution. I mean, I didn't start that way. Let's be honest. My first entire year in ASEA, I was talking to people. I was putting my foot in my mouth. I was so nervous. I would turn red in the face. I would shake. I was going to networking events and I felt like I was going to puke. So I had to sit in the car afterwards. I couldn't drive because I was shaking so much. Like I was not this that you see that's speaking. No, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just felt so compelled because something within me, like when you get chills, to me, that is an indicator from the divine, you're onto something, move in that direction, pay attention. That's just how I take it. And so I went, okay, I got to do something, and I got to get out of my own way because this is bigger than me. And that was, I think, the mentality that really created the fire to keep going because I had every reason to not do this, because I was so introverted and I didn't know what I was doing, But my mom, thank goodness, I mean, she gave me GoPro, Eric Worre's book. I listened to it on audio, and I was like, okay, like I'm an athlete. If I have a coach, I can be coached. And so I just said, I don't know what I'm doing, so I need to listen to the coach. And I just, no one, mom knew me, but no one really within like the greater ASEA knew me to give me any coaching. So I just went to books and I went to people that I met in my local community that were also entrepreneurs. And I just was like a sponge. I went to talks, I met people, and I just went. But the fire was really because I wanted residual income. I don't think I hit that point. Because I lost my health and I couldn't earn, it scared me. Like, you don't understand, like that instability, like a 9-to-5 job to me felt like the most insecure thing ever. And I couldn't unsee that. Like, well, if you lose your health, you don't earn money. Like, what? So why would I go back in that avenue? It didn't work out very well. And so when I was at the ASEA conference and people weren't talking about the money, but I could see from their life that they were having fun, that they were helping people. And you could tell because I asked questions very specifically about their lifestyle that they were totally taken care of, and then some. And I went, okay, and it's like it can create that passive residual. And that was what also drove me. And I had to get part-time jobs in the meantime because like you didn't make money at a seat at the beginning, especially when you have no network. Like you got some skills to figure out. But those jobs, I saw them as stepping stones. I said, okay, this is taking me in the direction of where I want to go. And the 5 hours that I'm sitting there, I was working at a financial firm, the 5 hours that I'm sitting there copying, doing scans, I mean, like office level, stupid stuff, no brain required. And I'm like, this is like a motivating factor for me to make my ASEA business work in the times between that I had. So I would just get on the phone, driving to and from, and you have to have something, I think, that drives you if you want to do something bigger with it. Like you don't need some big why to go share with friends and family. Like you just, as a good person, you should do that because you've come across something amazing. Like tell them, but if you want to do something more, you can if you take it seriously. And I saw the possibility, and frankly, ignorance was bliss because I didn't understand the probability of actual success. It was, in my opinion, because what I went to was a group of people that had had success. I was like, well, the probability is pretty darn high. Look at all these people that succeeded. Like, that's all I saw. And so I just kept them in mind, and I said, we're doing this. And yeah, if 10 years later, I'm like, man, I was a little crazy, but something was in me, telling me to go.
To be your age and to have already discovered this and kind of mastered it is amazing. I mean, I'm very thankful because I did not want to do, I had dabbled in network marketing prior to this company, and I was like, been there, done that, have the t-shirt, don't like the whole industry. I mean, it was very compelling. When I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was like, wow, it's like, wow, this is brilliant. This is a business in a box type of thing. But there are a lot of negatives, and there are companies where, people approach people, and I probably did a little bit of that myself too, where you have to learn those skills, and like you said, Eric Worre is a great coach teaching you how to do it so that you're not, vomiting all over people and,
Which I did. I for sure did.
we all did. Everybody does, you camp out on their doorstep. They're like, you again? I'm like, I'm not going away until you get in, no, none of that stuff works. And I did not want to participate, but you're right. There's something about this. And, the fact that when you start to earn money and real money, and that it's residual, that you can go on vacation. Somebody had just texted me about, I hope your dad's okay. I missed a call, 2 weeks ago because I had to take off, emergently because my 92-year-old dad had to have emergency surgery. He's doing great. But you know what? If I was going to the hospital every day, there's no way I could have done that.
Yeah.
I mean, I am so blessed. And the fact that the checks keep coming, even if I have to be, doing something else, is such a blessing. And I don't think people realize how powerful that is. And for you to recognize that in your 20s and 30s is just incredible.
Yeah. Well, also, I'll just say this too. Like I'll never forget the first time I got paid, and the check didn't even have 3 digits in it. Okay, it had 2. And I was like, wow, like, holy cow, are you telling me that because I opened my mouth and I helped somebody solve a problem, I'm getting paid? Everybody has problems. Let me just go solve them. Like, it was like a light bulb went off in my brain. Like, well, if I could do that once, I can do that dozens of times, hundreds of times. And that's what happened. It was the same thing with social media. I used to hate social media. So I built my business like in my local community at the beginning. And then the pandemic happened. So I had to figure out social media, and I hated it. I'd sworn it off because it used to give me panic attacks. Like it was a visceral hate for social media. And thank goodness for Alyssa Favreau. She was like, she kept pushing me, Danielle, do it, Danielle, do it, Danielle, do it. And I finally said, get out of your own way, Danielle. You got no options now, Danielle. The world is shut down. You got to go online. And I just, again, reaching out to people, learning how to connect with people. I put my skills of networking to use. meeting with people. Can I solve problems? How can I help them? Kind of attitude, giver's gain philosophy. And it was like late fall of the pandemic. And I'll remember I was at mom's house because I went to her house to go through that whole thing. And I ran out of my room and I was like, I did it. I did it. Like, I got somebody that I've never met off of the internet to purchase a Sia. And I was like, guys, if I've done it one time, I can do it 1,000 times. Like, it opened, you know? And I think that's what people have to see. Like, I hope they have success relatively early, because it's like, once you see it once, you know, what do they say? If you can bake a dozen cookies, you can make a dozen cookies. Like, it's no different. It's just rinse, repeat, and you do need to fall in love with the repetition. Because it's pretty
Lee,
repetitive.
we're going to have to get on social media.
Yeah, let's do it. The world needs Redox, and if you are not loud and proud on social media, the world's not going to hear about it. They're out there. Yeah, but no, mom's heart has been the reason behind everything. Everything I have in my life is because mom's vision for it and her persistence, and like a pleasant persistence, you know, it's just amazing. And then to be able to do this business with mom, this is the other thing I don't talk about much. I don't even know if I've said it to mom before, but like, I didn't know how to repay my parents. Like, they would not take money from me, obviously. They were like, no, of course we're going to take care of you, you know, and we racked up quite a bit because we're going to all these different things looking for stuff. And I realized, if I do well in a Sia, guess what happens? Mom has to take the money because she brought me in. And so the money does flow back to her, and I can thank her and then some. And I've been able to do that and then work alongside her. And it's like, it's business write-offs to hang out. Like, it's like a win-win-win.
It's incredible, isn't it? You know, it's like my sister is like my very best friend in the whole world. I adore her. But she cannot do network marketing. I mean, she had a bad experience and she thinks it's like one step above purse snatching. And she loves the Sia. She loves all the products. But, you know, I would love for her to do it. But when she talks to people, and she is, you know, she's the one, the medical editor and former executive, you know, so very highly skilled. But when she talks to people about a Sia, her voice gets like 2 octaves higher. It's like, who are you? You know, just gets really nervous about it. But, you know, to me, to be able to work with a family member, for you to be able to work with your mom and you both benefit from it, what a gift that is. I love that. And I'm envious, honestly. You know, I have my best friends, you know, and the people in ASEA that do become your best friends.
They do.
They do.
It's
do.
crazy. Yeah.
So Lynn, how do you see all that from your perspective?
Oh, it's been almost, yeah, I'll probably get so emotional, but it has been such a blessing to, not just as a parent, being able to spend more time with Danielle. There's nothing like it. But even from a business perspective, watching her thrive, because, and this is what I love about ASEA, to take a little sidestep. You know, people think network marketing if they think pyramid, et cetera. Danielle has a higher rank than I do, right? And it has been amazing and thrilling to me to watch her grow and transform, to see her up on stage sharing this with the grace and the ease that she does. It's just, words can't even explain it. So just to watch her just grow into this beautiful human being, I've always known since she was a baby. I mean, there was just always this light to Danielle, and just to watch it really come into fruition in all that she's doing with ASEA and other aspects of her life, and to be able to be a big part of that. There's, like you said, Maureen, it's very, very special.
I can only imagine what a proud parent, you know, and that's what we want, right? We want our kids to do better than we do. And it's how cool that she's taken this and run with it.
And to be happy,
Yeah.
right? To do something that they love doing, because so many people I watch, or kids Danielle's age, they're going and they're showing up, but it's not something that's bringing joy to their heart, right? And I just think, like Danielle's experience showed, you know, tomorrow's not guaranteed, and you should be doing something that speaks to your heart with people who make you even a better person, right? And the entire Sia family, it is an amazing group of people that just that elevate you, you know?
And let me ask a question because this came up to me recently and I was like, what about the money? I mean, we know that you can make a lot of money. For me, and I know, y'all are doing well. I know what your ranks are. Um, is there anything disingenuous about making money sharing this with people, or have you ever felt that way? Like you were in some way, shape, or form taking advantage of anybody?
No, because I watch their lives change. I know that there's an exchange happening, and frankly, they're on the better end of the exchange. Like, like their life is changing in a big way. And, it's, and yeah, I get a piece of that, but it's like, and then you multiply that out with all the people. It's like, yeah, I don't think I've ever felt any sort of like, it has felt genuinely like, like, just such a big win for
It's
everybody.
a
Like I don't see the
win-win-win.
downside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe
Right.
it's the heart with which you share it, right? If you're after trying to make money and push something maybe you don't believe in, like I can for sure see why and how this could be utilized in a way that someone feels icky about how someone's bringing something to them. But ASEA is just such a unique thing, and like there's no other way to get it. And so it's like, well, if they don't want to pay, I'm glad they're not a pharmaceutical company's not making a ton of money off of this. Like that was the route it was going. Like hallelujah. I don't think they need more money. I think good people need more money. And frankly, I think we need more people in this world with good hearts and good intentions to have money so we can have more influence and it will raise and lift humanity. Like that needs to happen in a big
No,
way.
I love it. And I love the expression on y'all's face. Like, we've never even thought about that. What are you talking about? Because, when it was brought up to me, like somebody's like, oh, you're recommending this and you're making money off of it if I buy it. I was like, do you know how much you would have paid me if you scheduled an appointment
Right.
to come see me? Do you know how much Dr. Lee's going to charge you for those beautiful implants that you're going to get? Hey, we're sharing from the heart. Every dollar we make is based on changing somebody's life. So, yeah, pretty cool. I think it's
Thing
incredible.
I think, Maureen, and I've seen practitioners struggle with this, and when they look at it in a different light, I think it makes more sense. The people we're sharing it with are paying the same price we're paying it for, so it's not like we're not making money off them, right? The company is the one paying you to share it, but you're paying the same amount that they are. And I do think that when you come from your heart, like I've never had somebody say that to me. And I think it's because when we're coming from our heart, they realize we're there to try to help them, but I could see in this industry, if somebody comes in and they're all about the money, it would be a
Ingenuous.
it wouldn't feel,
Tonight.
I can say that word.
I'm not even going to go into that word. And I think, and maybe that's part of why when people find out this is how it's being sold, that maybe they have that sense. But I honestly think the people who are in it just for the money, I don't think they last in this company. And
Not in this company.
I really don't think they last.
I watched them come and go.
Yeah.
Front row seat to that. Yeah. And I think also it was said to me just today, somebody said, actually, I had a practitioner not interested in having this in their office because the markup wasn't high enough. They didn't make enough money off of sharing it. I was like,
But they can mark it up to whatever they want. Now, I'll tell you what, I had a girlfriend who used to sell, she had she was a massage therapist and she would sell the Renew 28. I think she charged like $75 a tube and people were paying for it. They thought the value was there. But then when they found out that they could go online and order it from her site and it was like much less
cheaper.
money, and they were kind of mad about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, what I teach my practitioners is sell it for whatever you want in your office. It's a convenience factor. It's like being at the hairdresser and grabbing products as you're going out the door. It's 100% markup. But say, hey, you're going to pay this here, but then I'm going to put you on a subscription and you're going to get it for a markedly discounted price compared to this. And it's a great, it's a great ploy for
And
them.
then that practitioner can generate some residual income, because most practitioners at some point want some time freedom, right? And they can be creating this little nest egg over here on the side that can help them
Absolutely.
move toward retirement, or at least reduce their hours when they want to do that.
When after we had a hurricane and I ended up taking a leave of absence, and when I stopped working, they stopped paying me. It was so rude after decades, I was like, what? So yeah, having that residual income is huge. You guys, we're at the top of the hour. This has been so much fun. I can't believe Jim and Ann aren't here. I'm usually ragging on him to end on time. He never does. And here we are right up against it. So Lee, any final closing words?
Oh, this has been a delight. We started off with some actual real life health challenges. Many people would call them miraculous. We've kind of come to expect to see these kind of results in time. And I just appreciate your sweet smiling faces and the wonderful charm you bring and the way you approach this. My takeaways are always, what Danielle said is like, go find a pain point and see if you can solve a problem. And so we all need to remind ourselves that all the time. I will say this so that we make sure that we have this officially on the record, that all of us are associates of a company, SIA Global. And this is a cellular health supplement that's regulated by the FDA, and therefore we do not make any claims for treating, diagnosing, or curing disease. This is a cellular health, a cell function product that ups the cell's capability of restoring health, or what I say, awakening the inner doctor. And if you want that, please come and join us. We'd love to have your energy and add to the fun.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. It really was a joy. So I love spending time with you guys. So anyway, take care. Bye, everybody. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Next week, we'll have Alan Noble, and then we're not sure about the following week because there's an ASEA trip to a foreign country that's scheduled then. And so we will be back for sure on the last Thursday of this month, close to Halloween, but not quite. But anyway, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you having this with us.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, ladies.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, Lee.